This stuff lives in our bodies. And I don't know how you do it, but for me, for a long time, when I would leave here at the end of the night, I don't leave here and cut it off. Caring does not stop when I leave work. It goes with me when I go home. Now for some, it may stop because I ate at Casey's buffet. For some, I'm just saying, Terry, chicken pastry will heal a lot of sorrows.
Temporarily.
Temporarily. And see, that's the problem. It's temporary, but it becomes a permanent problem, right? The other thing is, for some, it may be alcohol. For some, it may be opioids. For some, it may be other things. Like, I still, to this day, am still working on my eBay problem. Because every time I win another piece of David Yurman, it's like a little piece of joy, right? But as a public employee, I can only do so much of that without it becoming another problem, right? I'm just saying. So what can we do with that care to help us reset our nervous system to be able to be resilient? You know what I'm saying? So here we go. The other thing is we have changes in work environments. How many of y'all are moving into a new building? Hello. We have staffing changes. So all of this stuff adds. If you're bringing ACEs to work, then we have this. So there's a lot going on for us, right? The data, though, some more experience. So remember, 17,000 were the original study. There's 450,000 now in the full amount of data. Then there's other researchers that have gone into looking at how do ACEs show up in the workplace. $250 billion impact ACEs have on the workplace. This is incredible data for us. It shows up in our workplace just like anybody else's. But here's the thing. It shows up in places like depressed mood, panic attacks, danger, difficult anger, back pain, headaches, joint problems, alcoholism. All of these things are going back to those issues related back to our ACEs showing up in the workplace. We are not bad people. We are experiencing things that are part of our incredible past, some of the trauma-related issues, and these kinds of things show up. So how are we dealing with them now? How are we looking at each other? How are we reaching out? And then what are we building in wellness to then add to our overall experience with working with one another? Does that make sense? That's power. And see, if we're going to be a data-driven place, an enterprise that says we're using data, here it is, right here. So that helps to inform us. That's, again, not apocalyptic. That's an opening of a door to say, hey, here's another way that we can make better possible here at New Hanover County. All right, now, the last slide I have on this section is this one. Now take a second with it, isn't it cute? But this is where my Fuquay comes out. Your mud is your mud, all right? And one of the dangers we all get into, and all of us do it, is that somebody will look and say, you know what I experience in my work is so much worse than yours. I pulled out a child out of a burning car, or I pulled out a child out of a house that was abusive, or my tax office, somebody came with a gun on their hip. And by the way, they do. Over in development services, they're probably walking in every day. So there's a lot of stuff that everybody deals with. One of the things I'm hoping with resiliency that we work towards is instead of comparing and despairing, we get to a place where we can be aware and share. And we can repair each other with these wellness skills by realizing that everybody has their own mud. And by looking towards each other and seeing the commonalities of what we experience by doing the public service that we do, we can connect and really identify the good and then help one another to restore. I have never seen anything like what we experienced in Florence. I don't mean to re-traumatize it, but what I will say in it, I'll highlight the process that during Florence, I have never seen human beings that connected during an event that brought such power. It didn't matter who you were, what you did, where you were from, what title you had. Everybody connected to get it done. And it was power. if we can not have the traumatic event going on and do that in the daily work that we do, can you imagine, right? Does that make sense? It's powerful. Now, do you want me to do the brain? Okay, so I'm going to continue with how we get to resilience, and it lies right in here. And it's not, by the way, it's not in my brain, it's in your brain. Let's all put on our brains. But this sucker right here is amazing. And that's what I really found the most incredible about this entire process, was this brain. And again, I don't mean to be didactic to health professionals. You all have already had this schooling, this learning, etc. But we're going to go over it one more time, because I want to give you something that was given to me that works for everybody that gets it. Okay, it's a very simple hand model that works for everyone to really identify how we work through this process to get us reset and back online when it comes to how our bodies can move through and get back into that resiliency zone. Does that make sense? Everybody good with that? All
Some of them may know this. Do any of you use the hand model of the brain at your school, like with children? Yeah, I figured. Some probably do.
Well, again, we get back to biology versus mental weakness. This is about our biology. And so this big old brain sitting up there is ready and it's set for us to be able to do for us sometimes what we feel like we can't do for ourselves. But it is ourselves, right? It is ready to do it for us. So this guy, this woman, is sitting up here, and now I'm going to do this from the side because the hand model is supposed to resemble what our brain would look like on the side. And I'm happy that I look a little bit thinner from the side now, so I'm not as bad, a little bit better. So anyway, so this is the stem of your brain, right here. And then going up into it, this is the amygdala, okay? So this, and we'll talk about what each of these is. This is your emotional brain back here. And then as it covers up, this is your thinking brain. And we're going to go through each part of this. So the bottom part of your brain is the first part that formed, which is your survival brain. I call it the rabbit brain. Other people call it the lizard brain. I don't like lizards. I don't like them, even on my flowers when they're green and they look pretty. So I'm going to call it the rabbit brain because I like rabbits, okay? But it's your survival brain. It's also the part of your brain that handles all your respiration, your swallowing, everything that's sort of automatic, right? This is that part of the brain that when the bear comes in the room, you figure out whether you're going to freeze or you're going to run like hell, all right? Now, I would suggest freezing with a bear for those of you that are not from southeastern North Carolina, because if you run, the bear is going to catch you and eat your butt, okay? So, just wanted to let y'all know that. However, once you've gotten from the survival brain, you're going to go to the emotional brain, which is here. This is where these skills start to really inform us, because we talk about sensing in or tracking into our bodies. The emotional brain, which is where when we get freaked out or we start getting real low or real high, we're not thinking in words. And this part of the brain, the limbic area, is emotional, and it doesn't understand words. It only understands sensations. So this part of the brain isn't thinking, I'm depressed, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. It's thinking, I feel. It understands sensation. And then this little guy right here called the amygdala, I used to think was only about warning Will Robinson, warning Will Robinson. It was telling somebody that danger was coming. But it also signals safety. So whenever I'm training, I'm always scanning the room and looking at you all, right? My amygdala is actually helping me to figure out, am I, at the end of this training, going to get reviews that say this was okay, or I'm the stupidest son of a gun that ever walked the face of the earth, based on how you all are looking at me, right? And if my amygdala is activated, it's usually because y'all are looking at me like, what the hell is he talking about, right? But the amygdala is amazing. But notice where the amygdala is. It's on top of the emotional brain. It's not on top of your thinking brain. Your thinking brain was the last part of the brain that got formed. So the last thing we do is actually think. We don't get to thinking until all of this stuff, right? So whenever we say we flip our lid, we're talking about the fact that our thinking brain went there and we're all into here somewhere, right? So this is a really great thing for us to be able to say to each other. If I can't talk, I can look at one of my colleagues now and go, and they know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And I love Amy talking about, she was leaving Johnson one day, and one of the kids came running up behind her and said, "My amygdala's activated."
Hey, is the Johnson nurse here? 'Cause I don't know the Johnson nurse. I see her in there, but I don't ever go. Anyway, they use conscious discipline at Johnson and at all the NC pre-Ks, and that is based on brain development. And so the children learn very quickly about the hand model, and they got it at 3 years old. So like, okay, I can get this now too.
So we decided it was time for the county employees to go.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
and
catching
the
up with
idea
the
for us is to
preschoolers.
get us back online. So everybody's going to flip their lid. Everybody's going to go through this, right? But the idea is to get us back here. And that's what these skills that we're about to talk about is going to help us do. It's going to help us get back online and get back to a place of resiliency where our thinking brain is taking back over and we're able to get back to a place of resiliency. Does that make sense to everybody? And this, I just think it's lovely. It's a place that we can all get to, but we can use this as a way to signal it and use it. Now I'm going to turn it over to my incredible colleague who's going to walk you through just how to get there after I talk real quickly about how we're going to build those neural pathways. Because the good news is we can all do this by actually building pathways that are going to create the opportunity for us to be able to do that. Right now, in our brains, in my brain, I do have, and Susan and I were talking about this earlier. So I've been going through a lot of changes, etc. Weight, the way I've been exercising, all sorts of stuff, right? There are old self-talk in my head saying you're going to fail. There's just self-talk. I have new pathways, and some of those pathways are blocked and they're negative. And if you can see, I love Carolina Beach State Park. They're blocked, they're negative, but there's some new self-talk that I have. And I saw it the other day. I was at Orange Theory and I was standing in front of the mirror and I saw myself for the very first time since all this started. And it took my breath away. And like I saw myself, and actually I saw my dad. And that was really powerful. But I saw myself and I literally had to take my phone out like one of those cheesy guys that goes to the gym and takes this picture like, hey, whatever. But I took that picture and I posted it to a friend of mine and I said, I just saw it. I just saw it. I'm going to release. I just saw it. And it was the most powerful moment. And I said to Susan a minute ago, I've got to remember to keep moving forward and reminding myself of what I saw. I've got to keep that self-talk going. And that's where these new pathways are created. In our brains, we don't change a negative pathway. We create new ones. So to become more resilient, we open up new pathways to help us become more resilient. We unblock. We're not unblocking, we're creating new ones. Does that make sense? That is neuroplasticity. Our brains have the most remarkable ability to create opportunity for us to do this. That is power. And one of the things that's very true, like Carla Schatz has said, that what we fire together wires together. So all those years of self-talk of me saying, I can't, I won't, I don't, that fired together and it became truth. So all the years that I say I can, I will, and I can do, that will fire together as well, and that will become truth also. And it's not an act as if, it's a part of creating truth out of the experience that we're living and that we're moving forward with. Wow, it's our brain in action. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in and commandeer the clicker here. So we have been talking about ACEs, we've been talking about heavy duty stuff,